Hi, my name is Jennifer Schlipp. I'm a professional life and wellness coach as well as a certified personal trainer. In the first part of this conversation, we were talking about the who and what makes stress what it is. I'm going to pick up this topic with starting with the when is stress present. Referring back to the definition of stress, it is a natural feeling of tension, state of tension that is created equally in the presence of both positive and negative stimuli. These are feelings that we experience on a normal day-to-day basis. So in a more practical sense, I want to look at least 3 different places that stress can come from in a common day and situations that present in normal everyday life. The first way I want to talk about is when there is a difference between our expectations and our actual life experience. This would be very common to leave us feeling stressed. So one example would be if you went to the grocery store with a whole list of items that you knew you needed to get, and on those items you had planned out your whole week's worth of meals, so it was important for you to get everything so you didn't have to go back to the store again. But when you got to the store, you found that they were sold out of several of the key items you really wanted. It would be very common for you to leave this situation being very disappointed because your expectations weren't met. You would probably leave feeling very annoyed and disappointed. In a second common way for stress to present itself, it's when we're not getting our needs met or we feel that our needs are in jeopardy or threatened. So an example, we could be at our workplace and we feel very stressed out because we feel our employer continues to disregard our expressed concern that the current workload is unrealistic to get done in the amount of time that you've been given to do it. So if you've taken the time to confront your employer, you've expressed your thoughts, you've probably even prepared a compelling argument to back up what you're saying, and you feel like you're just not being listened to, you're not being heard. He's disregarding your needs, and it's probably giving you a secondary stress about whether it will have an impact on your job. This is a common occurrence. And in the third example of where stress can come from, stress can come from a feeling of being unprepared or concerned about something we anticipate. So the anticipation of what's coming, the unknown. For example, at your workplace, you could hear rumors that the company may have to downsize and therefore people will be let go. You're not getting any other information based on that, so you don't know if it's actually happening, when it could happen, or if you would be one of the people let go. The question of your job security and then the impact of that on your life and the life of your family members is a very high stress topic for a lot of people. And that would be very natural to be very fearful if something like that were present in your life. So again, you're fearing what is anticipated and unknown. So going back to the conversation that we had in the first series about Zelier's claim, how we take stress will determine a lot about the category to which stress will fall into. This is a concept I want to look at a little bit further, and I feel that Barry Lenson in his book, Good Stress, Bad Stress, does a good job of exemplifying how we can apply this management idea in our own thought process into taking control of where this stress is going to land. And again, you have to remember that the goal here is not to avoid all stress, but to take stress and put it towards good use, make it a good stress in our lives. And if stress is indeed a bad stress, we want to try to minimize it and manage it before it has negative health effects on us and on our lives. So Barry Lenson has come up with the 7 good stress or bad stress laws. And I'm going to walk you through them one at a time. Remember that good stress, especially in a workplace, can propel us forward to achievements we might not have thought possible, or circumstances that give us the opportunity to show pride in our work, show confidence in our work, or maybe even get promoted. Bad stress, on the other hand, can be a hindrance. It could leave you feeling stalled out or frozen in your career or with nowhere to go. This is where we talk about the where. stress gets sorted out into the good and bad categories. So the first law in Barry Lenson's book, Good Stress versus Bad Stress, is we exert a high level of control over the outcomes of good stress. With bad stress, we enjoy little influence over what will happen. Certainly, the example about losing your job from a corporate downsizing is a perfect example from this. However, we could choose to sit and do nothing until we hear otherwise, letting that anxiety and fear build, taking on more and more bad stress. Or we could use the possibility that this rumor might be true and take action. We could use this time to update our resume. You could use this time to go through some of your networking channels and talk to other people in the field. Maybe you'll learn of an opportunity at another company that would be right for you, and it would be a good opportunity to take it. In any case, whatever you're doing, taking some action during the time in which you're waiting for the outcome of the corporate downsize or lack thereof will make you feel more in control. It'll make you feel like you're taking action to better the situation or to get in front of it. What that will leave you doing is internalizing good stress, seeing opportunities that may be out there versus negative stress and bad stress that's bad for your health. We want to keep you in the driver's seat of your stress. That's important to remember. The second law is when we experience positive feelings when we process good stress. When bad stresses leave our lives, negative or ambivalent feelings follow. So in our everyday situations that we talked about earlier, good stress would be accomplished based on our ability to communicate the deadline with our boss. A good example would be if the employer changes the nature of the business. He either changes the workload or he changes the timeline for which it needs to be done in. This would allow you to complete your job with a sense of fullness and with a level of quality that you feel comfortable in. A bad stress that would result from this situation would result from there being a confrontation that went negative after you spoke to your boss. Maybe he demoted you and said you couldn't hack it. Maybe he transferred somebody else into your unit feeling or claiming that they could work harder and better. This would be a bad stress because it was not handled in a way that leads to feelings of a better relationship when it was over. The third law that Barry Lenson points out in his book is that good stresses help us to achieve positive goals. Bad stresses offer no desirable outcomes. So revisiting the idea of someone losing their job from a corporate downsize. This could be an opportunity, if you chose to see it like that, to make a fresh start at a new company. It could also be the opportunity for you to change gears and do a second career you might not have thought possible. Or you could see it as an unfair attack on you. You could internalize it, which will probably lead to more feelings of depression, anxiety, hopelessness. You will feel that it's an unfair action being taken against you. What could come from that type of a scenario is that the negative windfall, maybe your bills start to back up, you get behind on your payments, all of the negativity that comes along with that will continue to keep that stressor, that moment, that impact, that action in a bad stress category. And again, that will have negative effects on your long-term health. If we choose to see it as an opportunity or maybe an opportunity to come, something that you can still do something about, you can process it internally as a good stress so that it does not have a negative effect on you. The fourth law is that we feel eager when anticipating the work we need to do to process our good stresses. When facing bad stresses, we experience feelings of exhaustion and avoidance. From the real-life example we've been speaking of, restarting a new career, if that was the opportunity you chose to take, could mean taking some classes online or going back to secondary school, finishing a degree that you never finished, getting a training that you don't have at this point. Maybe it's something that you've always dreamed about. And if you feel energized by that learning process, it will turn into a good stress in your life. If you take that opportunity and what needs to be done from it, and you dread the thought of going back to school, you dread everything that comes along with it, then that will probably be associated with a bad stress. The fifth law is that good stresses make us grow. Bad stresses box us in. In a simple everyday example of the grocery store where items were not available, this could be seen as an opportunity to try new recipes. Maybe flip up the meal plan that you had already decided on and go with the ingredients that are available to you and try something brand new that you wouldn't have thought possible. Maybe it'll be a recipe that your entire family loves, or it becomes your favorite recipe and you'll continue to do it going forward. Maybe it won't be something that you love, but you're proud of yourself for trying something new anyways. That would be an example of a good stress. If the idea of going outside your box and trying something new for the fear that you won't like it, for the fear that people might reject it, if you start to internalize all of that into anxiety, that fear of anticipation, then this could easily become a situation that becomes a bad stress. And this is just a day-to-day run-in that you're going to have. This could easily be the same type of stress that comes from driving to work and you're in heavy traffic and you might be late. We have to take hold of these moments in our everyday life and do something positive with them. Moving on to the sixth law. Good stresses improve our relationship with other people. Bad stresses make relationships worse. So in the example of the boss that you confronted about the workload and the deadline, if your relationship improved after that confrontation and change was made for the better, your boss is likely to have more respect for you and you will have more respect for him or her because you were both heard, you were both understood, and you were both respected. That would be an example of something turning into a good stress. If that scenario were to go poorly and say he or she did fire you or demote you, then the feelings left over from that would probably fall into a bad stress category. And lastly, moving on to the seventh law, processing any stress, whether good or bad, requires action on our part. Lenson explains that no good or bad stress will reveal its true nature until you process it. In other words, laziness won't cut it. Simply waiting around to see what will happen or to see if the stressful problem will just go away. Yet there is a particular payoff when you do process it and you work hard to process the stresses. We develop a level of personal resilience that makes our lives fuller, more accomplished, and more rewarding. We grow, in a sense, out of this good stress. So finalizing this conversation as to the why do we care so much about stress? Based on the information you've heard today, it becomes obvious that we have to care because stress is occurring in our day-to-day lives, whether we like it or not. And as the statistics have supported, not many of us are going to be able to escape stress completely. We also can't ignore the significant impact that bad stress could have on our health. So we want to take that seriously. It can cause harm to us both physically and psychologically. And in the end, processing good stress can become, as Hans Selye said, the spice of life. I hope this lecture has helped you to go into your day-to-day life, assessing and processing the stresses you have, putting you in the driver's seat to take control of the stress around you by deciding to accept it as a good stress and try to eliminate it as something that becomes a bad stress. Thanks, and I hope you have a great day.